Let's look now back and ahead at the same time. How do you do that, you ask? We're going to tell you.
We can tell you.
This is the year-in preview.
Oh.
So Pete and I were talking about this over the weekend. We're just trying to come up with ideas for the podcast because we're kind of in a dead period right now, right? We just finished the draft.
Yep.
Free agency's over. We haven't quite got to your top 40 quarterbacks list.
Coming in 2 weeks.
I was like,
we're going to start it up.
I was like, exactly, 2 weeks. So we had to bring that up. We need something. But I was like, in this little gap, let's take a look back and see what we've learned so far in this offseason. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the teams that were at the top in passing and the bottom in passing, the top in running, the bottom in running, and the top in points per game and the bottom in points per game offensively, and see which teams are likely to stay there, which teams are going to come out, who might jump in there. Now, there was a debate before this whole thing.
Yeah, I like this.
Pete and I thought we should go with pass yards per pass play, rush yards per rush play, in the thinking like that shows more efficiency. It's not just who passes the ball the most in a game or runs the ball the most in a game. It shows you per play who's doing the best. You, on the other hand, came in with an ironclad fist.
Shut up.
And you said, no, we're not doing that. I refuse to be led down this path. But seriously, you had some concerns, and you tend to go towards more the pass yards per game, rush yards per game philosophy.
I guess I do. I guess I feel like it's a little safer. I will say this. It's a good conversation to have as far as how you rank these or what you want to do. Now, I'll say with running the football, I definitely want to just go yards per game when I talk about that. Because I do feel like, you know, when you go into yards per play, it can be skewed by a scrambling quarterback or a team that just throws the ball a bunch and every now and then runs the ball. And, oh, yeah, they ripped off a good play, you know, yardage-wise on this one play, but now they're not going to run the ball for 7 plays. And I don't want to go to that because that does not define a top-end running football team. To me, a running football team is a team that goes, no, yeah, we're going to run. And you know we're going to run, we know we're going to run, and screw you, you're not going to stop it. So that's the aspect. Now, the passing game one, that's one is where, hey, maybe I could have been talked into the yards per attempt or yards per pass play type of thing. No doubt about it. Because where the passing one gets skewed is, yeah, you have teams every year that are in the top 5 yards per game, but why? Because they're down by 20 in the fourth quarter and have to throw the ball every play. So now their yards per game look pretty good where you go, yeah, but you're really not one of the top passing teams in football. You weren't good during the competitive part of the football game. You're good in the prevent part of the football game now where the other team's not playing defense. And that doesn't speak to it too there. So we ended up going yards per game.
We did.
But I do understand, especially the argument in the pass game. For yards per play, yards per attempt, yards per completion, which is actually the one I would prefer to go to.
And I think you did convert me on the yards per game and the rushing aspect. Because of that fact that you're trying to, you know, running team is trying to wear down the other team. They're playing the long game, right? It's not about efficiency. It's about let's wear you down in the fourth quarter.
This is how we play football, right? Our offense, you know.
We're going to set you up for a long pass by just running.
We're playing this way because of our defense. It's complementary football. I mean, that's the way a running team is built. So, like, the great example, too, is just like when you take the top 5 running teams in football per game, it's the Ravens, the Titans, the Browns, the Patriots, the Vikings. All 5 teams where you'd go, wait, they're coming to town, they're going to run the ball. And, oh, no, they're still really good at it. But then when you get into yards per play, the Patriots get knocked out of there, and the Eagles end up being the number 3 team in football at 5 yards per run play.
You get helped by the scrambling quarterback.
The scrambling quarterback, and they would be the team, too, that I would have argued more than anything last year, you know, they were the kings of, like, why are we throwing the ball for the 42nd time with Carson Wentz? Let's get a little balance on this team. Let's run the ball. But instead they opted to like jam 6-yard completions in there. But because they played that way too, it lended itself to teams always playing pass defense. And it lended it to the occasional like, or here's a 70-yard run by Miles Sanders. I mean, and I don't know, that to me does not speak to a top-end running football team, I guess. And I understand there's some room for debate there. But I don't know how anybody could watch football last year and think the Eagles are in the class of some of these other teams we just mentioned as far as the run game and imposing their will and doing it that way too. So
I think that's really important, though,
combo.
because we always talk about how numbers can lie, right?
Yeah.
We know that, but how do they lie? And in what ways? And when might a number not be telling you the whole story? I think that's all really important stuff in any sport, honestly, and especially in football when everything's so interconnected. So I think that's a good conversation to have. But you're right. This is your podcast. Your name is on it. And so we're going yards per game, but we'll also mention the yards per play, too. So let's start with passing yards per game. And here was the top 5, and you mentioned it, part of it here. No, you didn't mention this one, but the top 5 in passing yards per game: Chiefs number 1, Buccaneers number 2, Bills number 3, Texans number 4, and Falcons number 5. Now, the Falcons is a team there where they're playing some garbage time football.
No doubt. So the Texans, people are going to say that, too, about them, too. But I'm going to push back on that one.
Because, you know why?
Because his yards, I bet you, came in the competitive parts of football games.
Houston was number 1
I knew
in passing yards per passing play.
I don't doubt it. Again, the other aspect of them, even though it would look at base level to look at Houston and go, well, they can't really have been the 4th best passing team. That must have been garbage time stats. No, they came out throwing. They threw every play, and it was all on Watson to make the plays and do that. And they had no run game to counterbalance anything.
But to still be that efficient, number 1 in pass yards per pass play, despite not having a running game, I think it was in the middle of the year. Before the season started, you said they might be better without DeAndre Hopkins, ready? And I think midway through the year, you kind of had to take an L because the team wasn't doing as well.
The team wasn't doing good. Tony Dungy and Rodney were all on me like going, oh, yeah, DeAndre Hopkins, they'll be better on offense, right?
We need to revisit that prediction.
I kind of brought it up at the end of the year. I wanted to say to them a few times, everyone keeps telling me Deshaun Watson's having his best year of his career. And then nobody tried to dispel that fact, even into the offseason. So I do think there was some good for Deshaun Watson and the fact that Hopkins wasn't there. Wasn't best for their football team. So I was wrong with that. But I do think it made him grow as a player and made him have to, what do I want to say, take other avenues to find success in the passing game instead of always like, what? I don't know what to do. Where's Hopkins? What? I don't know what to do. Everybody's covered. Where's Hopkins?
Yeah.
He was forced to play a little bit of a different style this year. And, I don't think it's garbage bullshit stats with the Houston Texans pass game last year.
Number 2 was the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
And you might go, oh, that's the Tom Brady effect. They were first in 2019 with Jameis Winston pass yards per game. So they dropped with Tom Brady.
Dropped, but still aggressive, throwing the ball down the field. He made them more efficient.
He did. I mean, the turnovers were the huge
That's
thing.
the biggest thing, right? But, hey, that's what they are. They're aggressive, down-the-field passing. And, again, that's where, yards per attempt can be a little misleading to me when you talk about because, all right, yards per attempt is misleading in the fact that if you're attempting a lot of aggressive passes down the field, it's going to lead to some incompletions.
You get some zeros.
You're going to have some zeros on there, right? To where when I think people see that, they think, oh, that must be a little bit dink and dunk if the yards and attempt are like that.
Yeah.
Where the Buccaneers were at 8. But I think if you got into yards per completion and started to get into that type of conversation.
Start looking at the air yards.
That's where I'd go, no, they're going to be towards the top of football. I don't think. I wouldn't have any doubt about that. So that's where, again, it's a dicey conversation, but it's an impressive system. You have a quarterback who still has a big arm. They can protect the quarterback, and, of course, they have weapons at the receiver position.
And the Bills, they were 3rd. They made a jump all the way from 26th in 2019 to get into the top 5 and get into 3rd. So here's the question.
Yeah.
Who is, out of those 5 teams, the best bet for number 1 in 2021? So Chiefs, Buccaneers, Bills, Texans, Falcons. Of those 5 teams, who do you think is most likely to be number 1 in light of what we've seen in the draft and free agency and just knowing the teams and the progress they may make even without moves?
I'm still going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Hard not to.
It's just hard not to. It's arguably the best pass catching tight end in football, still the fastest receiver, and then the best player in our game is that quarterback
who wasn't totally healthy at the end of last year.
No, and still was awesome. And, and with them is again, you can have an underwhelming game and you're like, well, damn, he still threw for 270. That's a bad game for him. I mean, it really is. And 2, he just the way the offense is called, it's made to play that style of football. That's what they want to do. So I have a hard time thinking that they're not going to be the number one yards, per game pass team once again. Just like, hey, just take into like he threw the ball 10 more times or completed 10 more passes than Brady, right? And he for over 200 more yards. It just tells you the explosiveness of what they can do at times and how they can rip big pass plays off and do all that type of stuff. So it's almost impossible not to pick them.
Okay, Chiefs number one.
Yeah.
So of those 5 teams, which team is most likely to fall out of the top 5?
This is easy. I'm going to go with the Texans because right now I don't think Deshaun Watson is going to be their quarterback. And
you don't think he's going to be their quarterback because
he's either going to be traded or not playing football at all.
Yeah.
I just think there's going to be some sort of something here.
Yeah.
The Texans got way too many questions. So yeah, I'm going with that right there. And yeah, they're got a whole new coaching staff and everything like that. But again, like the Bills, I'm not shying away from them. Not with Josh Allen and Diggs at quarterback and still got Coles Beasley and Gabriel Davis is going into the second year and Dawson Knox is getting better at tight end and you got Emmanuel Sanders. So I'm not going against them. The Bucs aren't falling out, not with that group. Mm-hmm. The Falcons just added Kyle Pitts. It's hard for me to knock them out, and it's going to be a different offensive system and everything. Like there's a part of me that thinks they could be maybe the team that gets knocked out too, but I'm going to take the Texans as far as that's concerned.
All right, and the final question on the top passing teams is teams outside the top 5 who could make a jump into the top 5. So in 2019, Dallas was second. They fell out of the top 5. Where did they end up going to?
They didn't go that far.
They didn't go that far.
No.
They were down to 8th last year.
Right.
The Rams were 4th in 2019. And where did they end up going to?
11, 12, 13.
13th,
there it is.
So the 13th. So which teams, so the teams that...
You're hitting on some teams that I think are the contenders for sure.
So the teams that just missed the cut of the top 5, Chargers, Raiders, Cowboys, Packers. Packers were number 2 in yards per pass play.
Yeah, the Packers are so efficient. Like, again, this is where it's a tough one. Yeah, they run the ball. They opt to play a balanced style of football. But I think if we got into efficient pass games and things like that, I'd probably go, yeah, the Packers are one of the most efficient, but they miss the explosive element that some of these other offenses have that we've talked about in the top 5. Their explosive element comes from one guy. It's the quarterback. Mm-hmm. The other guys here have the quarterback and receivers where you go, whoa, that's explosive receivers. Devontae Adams is really good receiver. I don't want to go like explosive, you're going to get 70-yard touchdowns. That's not what he is. So that's where it's a little different, and that's why they're efficient that way too. But I think you hit on the main teams there that are at least jump out to me. I mean, the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Colts, and the Rams are the 4 teams that I look at to go, they have the potential to be top 5, right? You talk about the Rams, they're going to be a different spectacle with Stafford at quarterback. So they can prove everything on their football team. I look at them, the Cowboys, of course, with Prescott being back and the weapons they have. The Colts with Carson Wentz, that offensive line, they're an aggressive passing offense. It's not going to be Phillip Rivers. You're going to have to worry about defending plus 40 yards down the field with Carson Wentz. It's not, you don't have a guy that's aging and has like a popcorn arm. So if you're going to make me choose one team, though, yards per game, passing-wise, I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I am. They
put it all together.
They put it all together. Dak's too good. There's too many good receivers. The offensive line is good enough. I think they're going to have to still err on throwing the ball more than running the ball. I don't think they're a great run team anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm copping out by that because I want to say Chargers. I love Herbert and what he can do. And, it's going to be the new Saints offense out there. I want to say Rams, but they're so balanced at times, too. It's hard for me to always throw them in there.
Right.
So I'm going to go with the Cowboys on this one.
Yeah, and the Rams have thrown the ball so much, it's almost padded their stats up there as one of the top 5 because Jared Goff wasn't necessarily a great quarterback, but they threw it 50, 60 times a game, And so you can throw for 350 yards when you do stuff like that. And who knows, they might do that with Stafford too, but
it'll be a different look and a different formula.
Yeah, Akers came on at the end of last year. They want to be more of a balanced running team, it seems like.
More of a balanced running team, and they, I think when they want to throw the ball, they don't want to think like, hey, we got to run a bootleg and find another way to throw the ball to the guy in the flat for 4 yards and hope he has a good run after the catch. That's what their offense was. It was never, we would come in here and, whoa, he threw for 300 and something yards, and then we'd look at the stats and go, well, he had the least amount of air yards in the NFL this week. Every throw was 3.9 yards, 4.1 yards, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's where they're going to change, and what they're going to do and then changing in that is they're going to put more pressure on teams. Yeah, okay, great. I don't know if it'll be, every bit as quite as efficient and all that, but it's going to make their offense better, more explosive, scarier, everything like that, because you're not worried about just defending inside zone, outside zone, guy in the flat, speed sweep this way, speed sweep that way. Wait, if we just defend that area, we're good against the Rams. Right. And that's kind of what happened against the good teams.
I got 5 teams that really need to make a jump up, more than the Rams, more than the Cowboys, and those are the teams that finished in the bottom 5 for passing yards per game. 28th was the Eagles, 29th was the Giants, 30th was the Patriots, 31st, the Jets, and dead last, the Ravens, who will be first in what we'll be talking about coming up next with rushing yards per game.
Yeah.
But they were dead last in passing yards per game in 2020. So, of those 5 teams, here's the question. Which team can make the biggest leap? Who can get out of the bottom 5, you think?
The Giants, Patriots, and Jets, I think, are out of the 5, the 3 that I go to. Like, I don't know about the Ravens. Yeah, I mean, that's not what they do. The Eagles,
their style, and they were a playoff team with this style.
There's nothing. It's not broke. They don't need to fix it. You just would like it to be a little bit better. The Eagles, we know they're going to be kind of into that same type of offensive system as well. I really look at, I think, the Jets, hey, Zach Wilson, I'm excited about that. But I think the Patriots and the Giants are the 2 teams I'm going to narrow it down to just as we talk here and do all of that.
Yeah.
Because, I do think Cam Newton's going to be a better football player this year. I do. I expect it to be him. And the way they run the ball, and I don't expect him to have COVID and all those issues. But I think if I'm going to do one to make the biggest leap in the pass game, I'm going to go with the Giants. I am. I'm going to go with the Giants. Out of those bottom 5 teams, if you want to say who's going to have the biggest net difference from 2020 to 2021, I'm going to go with the New York Football Giants. Another year in the Jason Garrett system, the weapons at receiver, offensive line should be better, Saquon Barkley back healthy. That might take away a little from the pass game, but it's going to make people worry about the run, too, to lead to some bigger plays in the pass game.
Do you want to look over your left shoulder and change your answer at all to the New England Patriots?
No.
Is there anything that would make you want to give Cam?
You mean my boss, who's just
a
New England homer?
And we'll change it once he walks away. But.
Nope. The hell with him. He can't change my football thoughts.
But wouldn't a healthier
he could fire me, but he can't change my football
depending on what you say. Couldn't a healthier Cam, just that alone, get him out of the bottom 5?
Yes. A healthier Cam with Jonnu and Hunter Henry and Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne and another year of knowing the system. Yes, I think all of it leads to, that's why the Giants and the Pats are those 2 teams. They are. Only thing I think I look at with the Giants having the advantage a little bit more.
Okay, he's walked away. You can stop. You can stop now. Yeah, you can stop.
The only thing I give the Giants a little more is the Patriots are going to be so good at running the football.
Yeah.
I have a hard time. I'm not sure how much greater the pass game will be. I guess that's where I question a little bit.
So do you think the biggest for the Giants then, to make them your answer, is it Daniel Jones makes the big jump? Is it Kadarius Toney? Is it Galloway?
I think
what's
it's
the biggest
weapons
reason?
And
or all together.
The weapons, I mean, just had Tony Galladay, Evan Ingram, Darius Slayton. Damn, that's legit. And Daniel Jones and Jason Garrett in year 2 together.
Yeah.
I think those are the 2 things. I mean, it's a huge year for Jason Garrett and Daniel Jones. They have no excuse. It's something we brought up last year with PL.
Make or break year for both of them?
It's a make or break year for both of them. There's no doubt. Because there's the excuse of they're not very talented or they're young or those type of things. That's not going to be viable after the 2021 season.
BG16 says, do you think Daniel Jones has the tools to make a significant leap this year?
Yes.
He seemed to be showing improvement last year before his hamstring injury. And I think, Nicole, do we have a a graphic on Daniel Jones. There it is, the last 2 years. Yards per game went down. His rushing yards per game went up, although it would have been more if he hadn't tripped at one time.
Yeah.
His TD to interception ratio was not very good last year. It kind of looks fumbles were better. It looks like he took a step back in 2020.
No, it's not any prettier. It's not. I mean, no Saquon Barkley. They had the offensive line issues early in the year. They weren't great at that. They couldn't really do anything early in the year on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
I think learning that style of football, and that's why I think it is a make or break year for Daniel Jones. It's year 4. I mean, what else do you want to say? And yeah, I just think that he does have the physical tools and everything you need to be successful. Now we need to see some translation on the football field. Stop taking the hits and fumbling and being a little more efficient and making plays. And I think that should be definitely something that's realistic, at least for the Giants this year.
Right. So when I was thinking about this segment, that went way better than I thought.
Good.
That was really interesting. I mean, that was good. I liked it. That was really interesting stuff.
I'm glad you're happy.
You can kind of take a look at where we were. I know Pete goes, don't act so surprised. No, but I mean, it's a good reassess.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
Sometimes you don't realize how good or how bad or where teams were last year until you take a step back after the playoffs.
Talk about it a little bit
and look and see where teams have gone. Yeah. So I'm excited to do this next one now, even more so than I was before. Rushing yards, the top rushing teams, bottom rushing teams in the NFL. Let's start with the top rushing teams. And number 1 was the Ravens in yards per game for the second year in a row. They averaged 192 rush yards per game. Number 2 was the Titans with 168. So that is a significant gap.
It's amazing.
And there's another pretty big gap there between them and the Cleveland Browns, who were number 3. The Patriots were right next to them at number 4, and then the Vikings pretty close to the Browns and Patriots at number 5. So those are the best running teams in football, right?
It's hard.
We're not really leaving anyone out.
I don't think so. I think this is pretty much what you see is what you get when you talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Again, running the football is, a good running team can just do it against anybody. It doesn't matter. That's what we are. We're here. We have enough schematics and physical power and can impose our will on you to make it happen no matter what. And that's where I think, these teams are pretty special that way. They can do that. The Saints on the top 5, at number 6 on the outside looking in, they're kind of close to being one of those type of teams too, where it just doesn't matter. There's no mismatch on a week-to-week basis with their offensive line where they're like, oh, we don't match up good with these types. No, really, this group here is pretty damn special.
All right, so is there any reason to believe that the Ravens won't be number 1 again next year?
No, there's not with that committee of running backs. Of course, him being special still with his ability to run the ball. And no Orlando Brown, I get it, but still too many damn good offensive linemen and a good scheme in the run game by Greg Roman. So all of that, it's almost impossible for me not to think they're going to be the number 1 run team in football again.
You know how you talked about with Aaron Rodgers 2 years ago where he threw basically 0 interceptions all year?
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know if I like that.
Right.
Because I want to see you taking some chances.
Right. There's got to be something there.
Is there something with the Ravens where, I don't know, maybe you should sacrifice a little bit of this running game? Maybe you should put more investment into the passing game?
100%. You're right. I mean, I think what you're saying is hey, we're up 28-10 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Or 24-10 in the fourth quarter, something like that, where you're feeling comfortable. Do we need to see the extra 100 yards on the rushing stat sheet for the end of the game?
Right.
Let's work on the pass game, or let's be a hair less of an impressive offense for the regular season because we're working on that pass game to where if we get in a situation in the playoffs. Oh, wait, we're okay. We're a pass game. We worked on it all year. We weren't always just run. Yes, I think you're totally right. There's got to be probably a little bit more of a give and take there, a little bit more balance, so we don't get into the situation like you've seen the last 2 playoffs with them, where they get down by 2 scores and you're kind of like, I don't know, can they do it? This last year was better than the year before, but it's still as soon as it became 17-3, I think we were all okay. I don't know if they can really do this. A 10-3 with the Ravens against the Bills. We were like,
right?
Can they go down? Okay, yeah, they're going down. Okay, good. The pass game's going. They got it. Oh, pick 6. So now it's 2 scores. They're screwed.
Yeah.
That's where it just, they need a little more in that department.
They'll be the only team that gets up 20 points. Be like, all right, put your 3 wide receiver sets in there.
Let's start throwing it.
Let's wind this game down with some play action and deep throws. So the Ravens, number 1, think they'll be number 1 again in 2021. So of those 5 teams, who do you think is most likely to fall out of the top 5? That's harder.
It is harder. This one's going to surprise you. I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans.
Really?
I am.
They were 3rd in 2019, 2nd last year. You think they're not going to be top 5?
I'm not, and it ain't anything to do with the running back. I know he's the best running back in the game. There's no doubt. But I just look at, offensive line, a little bit in flux. They've lost a few players there. Taylor Lewan's coming back from ACL injury. You got a new offensive coordinator. You lost Corey Davis at wide receiver. Okay, so I look at those type of issues right there and just go, I don't know. I don't know. Their offensive line wasn't as physically dominant towards the end of last year as it was the year before. And again, I know it's really damn good. But I guess what I'm saying here is one of these teams has got to fizzle out.
Yeah.
I don't think the Vikings are going to with the Kubiak running scheme. They've drafted an O-lineman in the first round. The Patriots, I had no way are they going anywhere in the run game. The Browns, no way are they going anywhere in the run game. Not with that offensive line and those stable of running backs. And I just did the same thing with the Ravens. So I'm going to take the Titans to be that team to fall out.
And the Titans, the last 2 years, they have depended on the last month and a half, 2 months, to really pad those stats even more. Like Derrick Henry has gone off, right, in the last couple of Decembers here. And so if that doesn't happen, and the first few months are just average, who knows? It could happen. But all those teams, really good running teams, should be good again in 2021. The question, if the Titans do go out, or if any of those teams go out, who could jump in? Looking back into 2019, the 49ers were 2nd. Your buddy Kyle Shanahan loves to run the ball. Seattle was 4th in 2019. So of all the teams out of the top 5 last year, who's most likely to jump in next year? That indicates this is a difficult
This is
choice.
difficult because there's a lot of potential for some teams here to be really like a better running football team. We've hit on a few, but you just talked about the 49ers, and if they start with Trey Lance and that offensive line they got, they got Trent Williams, Laken Tomlinson, Alex Mack, Aaron Banks, 2nd-round pick, and McGlinchey with those running backs and Shanahan and Trey Lance, that's unbelievable. That's scary. So you got them. We already talked about the Rams, and McVay's going to run the ball, and now you got to worry about Stafford throwing 60-yard lasers. That's going to be scary. The Seahawks, I think, are a team to watch out for. They got a Rams offensive coordinator up there. They have improved their offensive line. The Cardinals are a team that's very sneaky, the number 7th rushing team in football last year. Now, it's a misleading one to me. It's because of the Kyler Murray effect.
Yeah.
It's good to have when your quarterback can scramble and rip off a 40-yard run, and it'll make your rushing yard stats look pretty good. But they did improve their O-line. And then there's the Colts, who we've talked about, and the Saints. So if you're going to make me pick one, I'm going to go with the Saints because I'm going to play the angle of Taysom Hill is going to be the starting quarterback, and they're going to have that element of the Baltimore Ravens type of offense to where with that O-line and where they're at, I'm going to go them as being the team that jumps into the top 5. Cop out, I know, because they're number 6. If you wanted a team that's farther out of that, I'll go with the 49ers. At 15, because I do think it's going to be Trey Lance. And if it's not Trey Lance starting, I think he's going to get on the field. They're going to have run game packages for him. They got to play him in some sort of fashion. He can't set out a football again for another year. So those would be the 2 teams I look at. But the Saints, again, Teron Armstead, Andres Pete, McCoy, Ruiz. McCoy was, a 2nd-round pick out of A&M. Ruiz last year out of Michigan was a 1st-round pick. And then, of course, right tackle is Ramczyk. It's one of the best O-lines in football.
If they do go full Ravens offense with Taysom Hill, they could be the number 1.
They could be challenging. I just wonder if they'd go totally all in quite to that extent. But you're right. They have the capabilities of doing that. And Sean Payton, I know, is intrigued by this style of attack. So I'm sorry for the, not sexy pick.
No, I think that's good.
The Colts are another team. If you made, like I said, Saints, 49ers, Colts are the next team I look at too, just because the offensive line's too good, Jonathan Taylor in the second year, and the Carson Wentz thing is going to be real, especially if the receivers stay healthy. You got T.Y. and Pittman and Paris Campbell, and Wentz can throw the ball down the field. That's going to loosen people up, and now the blue wall is going to be able to dominate up front to give Taylor some running lanes, and that's you got to watch out for.
Opens up the field for everyone else.
It just opens it up. So those are my three there. I'm sorry if I seem like I'm copping out.
No, those
were
good.
So
all those teams you mentioned there, you think could have good running games next year. Here are the teams that were very bad last year at running the football. Tied for 28th, the Buccaneers in the regular season. Really didn't turn it on until the postseason. Tied with them, the Jaguars, which is kind of surprising, because that undrafted
James Robinson
had such a good year.
Right.
Lions 30th, not surprising because they're always down here lately, ever since Barry Sanders retired, which is now 3 decades ago? I don't even know. They were 30th. 31st was the Houston Texans. They were throwing the ball a lot. And dead last was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And there was a good gap between them and the Texans. We're talking
7 yards.
Yeah, 7 yards. So 84 yards per game for the Steelers in last, 92 for the Texans right ahead of them. And the Steelers in 2019 were 29th. So we're going on a couple of years here where they have not been able to run the ball.
Right.
So out of those bad running teams last year, who's gotten better? Who's the team that's not going to be in the bottom 5 next year?
Well, they're interesting there. I mean, the Steelers are going to be better at running the football. Yes. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're going to try to get back to – they're going to try to do what the Bucs said. This is what I've been saying ever since the Big Ben, retirement conversation. They're going to do that. Let's run the ball. Let's play defense. If it's one-on-one, Big Ben can still throw it. Let's protect them and let him beat these guys up.
Although you're not high on Harris. You're not totally sold.
No, he's not my favorite. He's not my favorite. But for the way they want to play and their new style, hey, I can get behind it. I'm excited for it.
It might not be efficient, but they're going to try to establish that run.
They are. I mean, to me, it makes no sense if they don't. It doesn't make sense for their whole football team, Big Ben. Play complementary football. That's the way they're built anyways, and I think that's the best way for them to win a football game and the best for Big Ben to play his best and extend his career. So, that would be one. Hey, the Lions are going to be, the 30th ranked team are going to be better at running the ball.
Yeah.
With Dan Campbell and Penny Sewell, and DeAndre Swift in his second year, and I would be shocked if Tampa doesn't make the big leap as well. I'm going to go with Tampa here.
You think they're going to make the biggest leap?
I do. I just think they kind of found their groove at the end of the year as far as the run plays that they know they're best for their O-line and everything like that. And Fournette kind of found his groove. Ronald Jones has continued to get better and better. And I think that offensive line, another year of being together, they don't lose anybody. I think they're going to be a beast up front. They showed the ability, like we talked about with these top running teams. They got in the playoffs, and it's like they spent all season going hey, we're going to throw. Let's throw a little bit more, almost like the opposite of what you said with the Ravens. Running's good, but we got to get Brady. We got to win the playoff games. We got to throw the ball better. We got to get Brady more comfortable. Let's keep throwing it.
Right.
Yeah, maybe we should have run it here, but we need the reps. Let's throw it and do that. And I think this year you're going to see a team that's going to feel more confident and going Brady's comfortable. Yeah. We know how we want to use him. And let's let these big mean they have on their offensive line just crush people.
Speaking of mean dudes on the offensive line, Phil Williams says, beyond the Najee Harris pick, have the Steelers fixed the run game in the draft? Will the O-line be able to keep Ben upright this year? So they're going to have a concerted effort to run the ball, like you mentioned just a second ago.
Yes.
But will they be able to do it successfully with the offensive line they have?
I think so. Again, it's a tough one for me to answer that question specifically. But I think the way I look at it, more than anything, is there's some guys on there that I think they are better than what we know about. Right now, first off, hey, tackle. They got DeCastro. Center position's going to be. We'll see who plays there. Hassenauer, right, from Alabama, who's in year 2. He looks like maybe the guy that could be the one that fills in there. All right, but then they got, Banner, who got hurt early in the year last year, who I know they think is a really good tackle and good player. Okafor, not bad player either, can play the other tackle position. They got Dotson as a young lineman who played a lot last year. He can play guard, right? And then they can duel it out between everybody else to play the other guard. They drafted the kid out of Tennessee in the 3rd round, who I think has they drafted the kid out of Illinois, Kendrick Green. Sorry. He's physically ready to play. So they're doing the right things. It's just now it's about what's the plan they're going to put together, how are they going to attack being better in training camp and doing those type of things. So yes, I think they are doing the right things. It's just the results got to show themselves now.
We'll find out week 5 or week 6 and how they're doing, how they're coming together.
I think you'll have even a feeling before that.
Really?
Not to know necessarily the stats will match up, but I think we're going to be able to see really in week 1 and 2 to go, okay, wait, they're trying to play a different way here this year.
Yeah.
And how successful, you're right. We won't know how good it can be to maybe week 4 or 5, but at least we'll see which direction they're headed in early in the year.
And what they think they can do, because that's a good indication,
what they think they
right?
can
If
do.
they're running those
Exactly.
plays week 1, they're like, okay, they think they can
Exactly right.
be successful with that kind of philosophy. All right, so those are the best and worst rushing teams from 2020 into 2021. Now the most important stat in football, points per game. It's all about points per game. And so this is kind of a combination of a lot of the teams that we talked about earlier, but not all the same teams. So here are the top 5 in points per game last year. Packers were 1st, Bills were 2nd, Buccaneers were 3rd, Titans were 4th, and Saints were 5th. Now I think what's interesting is those top 2 teams, they made big jumps. The Packers were 15th in 2019, went all the way to 1 last year, and the Bills were 23rd in 2019, went all the way to 23rd. As we mentioned before, the Buccaneers, they were pretty good with Jameis Winston, at least with scoring points and throwing a lot of yards.
Right.
They
he
were
might
3rd.
have gave the other team some points, but
Exactly.
they scored theirs too.
Exactly.
Right.
But scoring points for his own team,
right.
Jameis Winston and the Buccaneers in 2019 were 3rd, just like Tom and the Buccaneers were last year. So, of those 5 teams, who's your best bet to be number 1 for 2021? And now we have to assume, I don't know, number 1 last year was the Packers. Is Aaron Rodgers going to even be on the Packers?
That's where I can't pick them because of that. I don't really know yet.
Yeah.
That way.
And if Aaron Rodgers is not on the Packers, you're not picking them number 1.
Definitely not.
Okay.
And even if he is on there at number 1 too.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a hard time thinking I'm going to pick them number 1 again. Last year was a special, efficient year. By him, the offense came. It was year 2. Hey, similar there. Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, year 2 with an offensive coordinator, play caller guy, and it came together in a much different way. Buffalo chose the way of throwing the ball and just giving them weapons. Packers and Rodgers just became more efficient and found their niche as far as the way Rodgers and LaFleur wanted to live on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
But, that I don't know. I have a hard time believing they're going to be able to. That's, to me, again, is a part of the reason I go, it's always on Rodgers to be efficient and perfect and do everything the right way. It's never like, hey, here's a slant route or a screen pass, and the guy gets to run 60 yards and take a little pressure off you and do that. So that's why I err on no for them. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Okay. I'm going with the Chiefs. It's Andy Reid, it's Patrick Mahomes, and they just went from having one of the worst offensive lines in football to now they have one of the best.
So you're going, so the Chiefs were 1, 2, 3,
6,
4,
I believe,
5,
right?
6.
Yes.
So you think that none of those top 5 teams are likely to finish? You think the Chiefs are likely to be number 1?
I'm going to take the Chiefs to be number 1. Mm-hmm. All right. Was I cheating by
You
not
did
taking
kind
a
of.
team
You were
in the
supposed
top
to just
5?
pick of those top 5 teams. It's the first time you've broken the rules here.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I like that.
Well, if I wasn't going to take them, then I would go with the Bucks. Just so you know, I would go with the Bucks as being
year
the team
2
in
under
the top
Brady.
5.
That makes sense.
Yeah, year 2 under Brady. And again, I think the Bucks are going to be a little bit like the Chiefs last year, where, some years you go, oh, well, now they've won the Super Bowl, and will they relax? And they're going to have the bullseye on them, and how are they going to react? I'm going to take the same approach I took with the Chiefs last year and just go, with Bruce Arians head coach and Brady, I think they're going to relish being the biggest show in town.
Right.
I do. I don't think it's going to mean let down or anything like that. I think it's last year was a jump off point. Now they're we can beat anybody. We're good. We peaked at the right time. We know what we are, and they're going to hit the ground rolling this year. So if you made me pick a team in the top 5, I'd go with the Bucks.
You love Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And all the Bills fans out there that know you like Josh Allen would have thought you would pick them to make the jump.
I'm only doing it for one reason why I didn't pick them.
What?
I have a feeling that McDermott's their head coach, and he had to watch last year and go, what the f***? We got to run the ball a little. We can't just let Josh Allen every play just drop back and throw the ball. I mean, remember when they played the Seattle Seahawks and Pete Carroll after that game was like, I've never really had a team do that to me. They threw the ball every play. They were like, no run game.
Yeah.
We'll just keep throwing it. That can't sit well with McDermott.
Yeah.
You know, one, he wants to help his defense. You got to have more avenues of trying to win certain games against certain teams and all that. So that's why I think maybe they'll be they might be a more effective offense, but maybe a little less freewheeling and
it'll shorten the game. They'll run less plays, maybe.
Maybe more big plays and things like that. But I do think there's going to be more of a concentration on running the game.
All right, so you've been complimentary to all those teams.
I know.
And I think I'm going to guess the team that you think is most likely to fall out of the top 5. It's the team that you think might not be as able to run the ball as well next year, the Tennessee Titans. Is that true?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the Titans are just... I want to see, hey, you lost a really good tight end. You lost a real good receiver. Who's that going to be? You lost an offensive coordinator. You know, the offensive line is not as dominant as 2 years ago when we saw them go to the AFC Championship game. They lost a little last year, and now I got questions going into this year.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah, they're the team I look at to go, I think they fall out of the top 5 this year. Saints are a team I thought about, certainly. But still, I just think with Sean Payton and that offensive line and Taysom Hill, he's going to find other ways to, you know, accumulate yards and do things that way.
Certainly possible more teams than just one fall out of the top 5 next year, but you think the Titans are the most likely to do that. Teams that could jump into the top 5, you've already put Kansas City in there at number 1. Now, Baltimore was first in 2019 in points per game, and San Francisco was number 2. So outside of the Chiefs, who else do you think, from what they've done this offseason draft, could make the big jump?
I'm going to go with the Browns.
Okay.
The Browns are going to be a team I'm going to look at to go watch out for them in all areas of their offense this year. You know, it's just, again, it's year 2. Everybody's comfortable. Baker's got, like, the monkey off his back, so he can play and do that.
They were 14th last year in points per game.
So, yeah, you know, Odell, I'm expecting him to be back and a big contributor this year. I look at them as a team to go, you want a team that's not right there on the cusp of the top 5? Watch out for them. I think they could be that type of team that jumps into the fray. And then the other team is a team that we've brought up in every category so far, the Indianapolis Colts. I'm sorry. They're just one of those teams to me that's the scheme is good, the O-line's good. I'm more of a believer than everybody else in the quarterback. And I think the receivers are better than people realize too.
Wow. And you're going to feel even better about that after you learn of this breaking news that has just happened.
They traded for something?
Chris is just learning this on the pod right now.
Are you serious? I'm dead. I'm so excited. Is this the Colts?
Colts.
They traded for a receiver.
They did not trade for anybody. They signed a player.
They signed a player?
Signed a player.
Hold on.
You're watching Chris. Like, look, this is Chris. He doesn't know what's happening.
Signed a player, a wide receiver?
Not a wide receiver.
Okay. What side of the ball?
Offensive lineman.
Oh, my gosh. So they signed a tackle.
Left tackle.
Who's out on the market right now that I'm not thinking of?
Played for the Kansas City Chiefs last year.
So they got Fisher.
Eric Fisher, 1 year, $9.4 million deal. Nicole, thank you.
Nicole.
You got it.
What a great... See, that's Chris Ballard. You know, not going to panic, not going to draft a guy just to draft him, 40 spots ahead where he should be drafted just because we need the position. He had it all planned out. He knew what the hell he was doing. Damn. Eric Fisher? That's pretty damn good. Now, he's what? He's torn Achilles, right, in the AFC Championship game.
So, yeah, you wonder about
he might not be ready to go to start of the year, but they have other guys. They got Julian Davenport. They got Sam Tevy, who I think they felt like, hey, we can make it work with them. But now they can make it work with them and then go, okay, Fisher's ready to go 100%. Boom. Week 4, throw it in. And now maybe we might have the best offensive line in football. So that's big-time signing.
All right, so we like the Colts there. You mentioned the Cleveland Browns before as a team that you thought could jump into the top 5 in points per game.
Right.
This is a question from Mike Earhart.
Yep.
Says, love the pod since your BR days.
Thank you.
This season, anytime a quarterback has become available, like Rodgers or Watson, I see some media saying the Browns should take Baker Mayfield to upgrade, trade Baker Mayfield to upgrade
that's
the
the
position.
new thing.
Do you think Mayfield holds the team back, or is this overblown?
No, it's overblown. He doesn't hold the team back. He was phenomenal last year. You know, everybody wanted to fire him early on in the year last year. I don't understand that. But, man, he's got the right way of how he leads the team. He's got talent, as you could see. I think that showed, you know, and he fits well with how the way they want to play and everything like that. I think he's a really good bootleg play action type of quarterback. So, no, I wouldn't give away Baker Mayfield for Aaron Rodgers right now with that team. I would not. And listen, you know, that's my guy. That's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
I don't say that lightly, but it's like, you know, Baker Mayfield, you got a chance to have a real stud top 10 quarterback for the next 10 years right now. You know, even if the Rodgers trade worked out, you'd go, we got him for 3-4 years. You're going to trade away all that for the other 6 years of what you could be good with Baker Mayfield? No, I think they're building something special there in Cleveland. Don't abandon ship for anybody for Baker Mayfield right now. I like with the direction he's going.
All right, so Cleveland pointing up. These teams last year pointing down in points per game. Here was the bottom 5.
Yeah, who are they? Oof.
Broncos, 28th.
Oof.
Bengals were 29th. Jaguars, 30th. Giants, 31st, just 17.5 points per game. And dead last, the other New York team. Wow, New York football. That was exciting. 15.2 points per game. The Jets, who were also second to last in 2019. And the funny thing is, you got a lot of teams here in the bottom 5 who are also bottom 5 in 2019.
They have 2 years in a row.
Jets, Bengals, Broncos, bottom 5 2 years in a row.
That's concerning. It definitely is. I mean, the Jets, I expect a big-time improvement. System, players, quarterback, everything. The Jacksonville Jaguars, same thing. You know, listen, I think you got a new coach that's new to the league, Urban Meyer doing that. That's good for some cheap yards and stats in itself, let alone you got a better quarterback, a better run game, and like sneaky good receivers there in Jacksonville too. So I think you look at that, I go, they're going to be better on the offensive side of the ball. Like, there's no doubt about that. The Bengals, of course, I want to say they're going to be a different team. You know, the Burrow and where he's at to start the year and everything like that, I think is the element that I look at, I just question. So, I mean, again, if you're going to make me pick one team here, I'm going with the Giants again.
The Giants make the leap.
Giants make the biggest leap out of this group. I'm going to go with that. I am. It's dicey. All these ones have potential.
Yeah.
You know, because you get into the Broncos, too. I mean, of course, they got Aaron Rodgers, but they got weapons, you know, on the offensive side of the ball. Those receivers are special.
Bengals, I'm surprised for as well as Joe Burrow played last year.
I know.
And as good as that receiving core was. Now, A.J. Green didn't, you know, appear anywhere close to what he has been previously.
Definitely not.
But Joe Mixon, you just thought with those weapons they had, and Joe Burrow didn't have a bad year. It was
It's surprising to see them that low.
Yeah, and in the passing yards per play, I think they were down there. Yeah, they were second, or they were 28th.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was no, you know, what you're seeing. Okay, just what we went through today on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
You know, you see so many teams in the top 10 and everything like that. You know, and I know the Chiefs are up there, but really, so many of them are balanced, and they run the ball, and they get people to creep up towards the line of scrimmage, and it gives them the big pass plays down the field. And I think there's a common theme to that. I know there's a few superstar quarterbacks who, like, debunk that theory.
Yeah.
But when you really talk about, like, you know, the best offenses in football, I mean, the Titans, the Vikings, the Packers, the Bucks, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Colts, you know, the threat of the run game was real, which lends itself to other big plays in other big areas. And I think that's, you know, like we've talked about, I think one of the things of going into the future here, you're going to see teams continue to run the ball because these college kids aren't used to defending it, and it's the best way to create explosive plays.
All right, let's get a couple of these Ask Me Anything. So I think it touches on what you were saying there and running the ball. And by the way, that was fun. That was the offensive look at the 2020 and 2021. We'll do defensive looks coming up on
Wednesday.
A later pod.
Yeah, or
Are you doing that Wednesday?
I think we might. I'm not sure what we're going to do. Yeah.
All right, Pete's saying I think so. So
yeah.
That went so well, and we knew it would, that we're going to do it.
You sound kind of surprised.
We're going to do it 2 pods in a row.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.